In an attempt to try to get more views, subscribers, fans, and friends based on subjects that aren't discussed much on YouTube and Sonic-related things, I present to you the Saturday morning TV show Sonic the Hedgehog, or SatAM as dubbed by the fans. The show has one of the largest cult followings on the internet, is a darker alternative to the more completely absurd Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, and is really good. Or, at least that's what I've heard. I've actually never watched the show outside of the pilot, and that's not even like the show anyways. But I would be lying if I said that I hadn't been interested in the show for some time, particularly the madness that is the Season 3 mystery. To sum this up basically, SatAM was meant to get a Season 3, so it ended the second season on a cliffhanger, but the show was cancelled and a lot of people were annoyed. In addition to that, there is a mess of information as to why the show was cancelled or what plots were going to be for Season 3, so I've decided to help out those that are confused by making a fact file. And the purpose of this fact file is to answer 3 important questions. Why was SatAM cancelled? What would Season 3 have been like? And most importantly, could it happen? Prepare to find out as we delve into the madness and mystery that is Sonic SatAM Season 3. So you might be wondering to yourself, why was SatAM cancelled? It was a great show. Well, seeing as there are about a bajillion reasons, only 3 of them make the most sense. In a way, so let's discuss them. The first theory is that ABC, the channel which SatAM was airing on, was merging with Disney at the time, and the president of ABC, who supported SatAM, was laid off and the new executives weren't that interested. Considering some of the smart and brilliant decisions Disney's made over the years, I actually wouldn't be that surprised if that was the proper reason. The second and official reason, according to head writer of Season 2 Ben Hurst, is that SEGA didn't like how the show represented Sonic and that the concepts were completely different from what SEGA of America had in mind, so the show was cancelled. In fact, they even had an all-new concept for it, which would eventually become Sonic Underground. This probably isn't the real reason because, well, let's think about it. If SEGA didn't like the concept, they would have cancelled it far earlier than it ended up being cancelled. The third, and in my eyes, actual reason the show was cancelled was simple. For nearly its entire airtime, SatAM was in the exact same time slot as another kids show on Fox Kids. Don't know what I'm on about? Here's the concept. 5 bland teenagers have magical belt buckles that transform them into spandex-clad heroes and defeat monsters set by a witch who lives on the moon. Can't figure it out? Then I'm surprised that you actually somehow managed to wander into this video. Yes, that is right. In probably the worst case of bad luck in the entire multiverse, SatAM aired on ABC at the exact same time as Fox Kids aired Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, one of the most insanely popular kids shows of all time. And yes, that's even despite the fact that Sonic was also pretty damn popular. So, in an effort to try to help the show out, ABC changed the time slot of SatAM, and then Fox Kids changed Rangers' time slot to that time slot. I have no idea whether Fox Kids was actually fearing SatAM's competition or whether that was just a horrible coincidence. So as you probably would have guessed at this point, SatAM was cancelled due to low ratings. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, we can now talk about Season 3's plots. Ben Hurst did state that while no scripts were written for Season 3, there were enough plots and subplots to keep the show going for about another 13 episodes. Now before I start talking about the plots, I'd like to mention that the following information is taken from the SatAM article in Sonic Retro, so don't ask me as to who some of these characters are because I probably won't have a good answer. The first plot I'm going to talk about could generally be considered the main plot of the season. Remember the silhouetted eyes at the cliffhanger of the final episode, The Doomsday Project? They were meant to be the eyes of the wizard Nagus, an evil wizard person from this mysterious dimension named the Void, and not Metal Sonic or Knuckles as some people speculated. And you might be wondering to yourself, how the hell did that happen? Well, during the explosion at the end of that episode, the Void opened up momentarily and Dr. Robotnik accidentally escaped into the Void. But even though he survives the blast, he is immediately tormented by the wizard, his body transformed time and time again to the amusement of Nagus. At the same time, the Freedom Fighters, who would now be known as the Freedom Builders, would have begun the process of rebuilding Robotropolis, Rotor spearheading the transformation. Unbeknown to them, Snively, Robotnik's nephew, would be sneaking around the city, gathering intel on them and plotting to attack them outright. For a time, Snively is able to place himself in a position of power, proving himself as formidable a foe as Robotnik, becoming the first villain for a couple of episodes. However, he would be defeated very quickly thanks to the efforts of the Freedom Builders, and in a moment of desperation, he would free Nagus from the Void, and also release Robotnik and King Acorn, who incidentally is voiced by Tim Curry. Also, just on a random note, how the hell did Snively open the Void? So, as you probably would have guessed, Nagus immediately becomes the main villain of the series, using the king as bait to lure Sally Acorn in since King Acorn is Sally's dad, and making Snively nothing. So, effectively screwed, Snively decides to defect to the Freedom Fighters in retaliation, although he would secretly plan to back some of them at one point, but would be stopped by the only one who bothered to notice, Antoine. And so the season would end with the king sacrificing himself to seal Nagus back into the void. Meanwhile, Tails would have actually had a proper role in the series instead of going to bed, as he would have matured more, been allowed to take part in missions, and even would have become a bit rebellious, disobeying orders every once in a while. Hopefully, he would be more of a rebel than Guy from Shojin Sensei Jetman, who was classed as the disobeying rebel, but only acted like it whenever the plot felt it was convenient. Back on topic, Tails' relationship with Sonic would have been closer to the games, and he would have even saved the Freedom Builders from some great crisis by himself at one point. Also, it was slated that Knuckles would have appeared at one episode near the end of the season if SEGA had allowed it, and he wouldn't have even become a major character if the show had a fourth season. We also would have found out Robotnik and Snively's origins. Apparently Mobius is Earth in the distant future, and that the two come from the year 2200, and somehow got into the future while trying to take over a space colony. When they got there, Robotnik decided to take over Mobius, considering himself superior to the animals whom were the only inhabitants. Also, a new character would have been introduced to compete with Sonic for Sally's heart. I have completely no idea who this character would have been, but honestly it probably wouldn't matter since Sonic would have won anyways. And no, that's just not intuition, that's what would have happened. This final, and from what I've researched, the less known plot, would have concerned Nicole, Sally's personal PDA thingamy. It was revealed that before Robotnik took over, Nicole was just once a regular Mobian and had been best friends with Sally. In one of Robotnik's earlier experiments, he kidnapped the young genius and transferred her entire personality into a computer cellid, that small handheld computer there being an extension of the programming orbiting the planet. However, Robotnik couldn't predict her sentience, which gave her, among other things, the ability to control minds.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
Coming to grips with her existence, she decided that she could not exist like this, the fear of stripping the world of free will in order to protect it being too great for her. So, ironically, wiping Robotnik's memory of even creating her, she controls the future ruler into giving the computer to King Acorn, and then controlling his mind to give the same machine to Sally, consoling her over the death of her friend Nicole. Once in her possession, Sally names the computer after a friend, not knowing the two of them are the exact same person. Once set in place, Nicole creates a program to block out a human emotional side, becoming nothing more than the computer seen in the first two seasons. And at some point, Nicole was to have been restored to her former self, becoming a part of the Freedom Fighters. So yeah, that's a hell of a lot of plots, isn't it? I have no idea how the writers could squeeze that into 13 episodes because they're either the masters of pacing, or it would inevitably turn out to be a bit of a rush job in a few places. But to answer the most important question, could it happen? Well, most people you'd ask on that subject would probably give you a big fat no. Ben Hurst had been trying for years to get a Season 3 or revival of some sort underway, and if not, he'd propose an animated movie to tie up all the loose ends. But it just seems that time and time again, SEGA or whoever he proposed it to just weren't interested. His determination did, at the very least, give him the job of head writer of Sonic Underground, although, as you probably would have guessed, the elements of the concept were already put into place, so he really couldn't do anything about it. And since he died in August 2010 due to a diabetic coma, it's very, very unlikely that a Season 3 of SatAM will ever happen. Or is it? Now, you'll probably think of this as stupid, but hear me out. I just talked about Season 3's plots for the last 5 minutes, so if SEGA was suddenly interested all of a sudden, they could just look up the plots on Sonic Retro and then get a team of really good writers to write scripts and get new animation and new voices, new music, and ta-da! You have a Season 3 of SatAM. But hold up, they couldn't air it just that because its audience would be horrendously confused if they never saw the first 2 seasons. So in that case, I have another idea. Redo SatAM like Toei Animation redid Plan to Eradicate the Super Saiyans for Dragon Ball's Raging Blast 2 last year. It's not that difficult. Get the original scripts for the episodes minus the pilot, make new animations for the scripts with an expert animation studio like, say, TMS, then get the original actors, or if some can come back, very good impersonators, to re-record their lines, compose all new music, and da-da! A revival of SatAM ready to put onto TV. At least try it with the first season. I mean, it probably will work since Sonic is a bit more popular than he was a few years back, and Power Rangers isn't as popular as it used to be. Or any show for that matter. Again, try with the first season, and if the ratings are good, then give that exact same treatment to the second season, and if the ratings are more or less the same, or better than Season 1, then you can do Season 3. There, I've solved one of the largest conundrums on the internet. Was that so difficult? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm expecting a royalty check from SEGA any minute so I can go cash it in on the Comptacular Special Edition of Sonic Generations. In any case, I'll see you for my next video, and, well, I hope you enjoyed it.